everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's video. Very late with today's video, and apologies as well for dropping off the scene a bit over the past few days. We've had quite severe connectivity issues. I've also moved to a new internet service provider. It's all combined really to take us out over the past 2 or 3 days, but we're back up and running now. Hopefully, I've got fingers crossed, everything's going to run smoothly from here on in. So I'm going to have a quick look at what's going on in the Ector Pacific. I wanted to do this for you on Tuesday, but I was unable to do a video on Tuesday. So I'll have a quick look at what's going on in the Ector Pacific at depth, low down under the surface, and then we'll have a quick look at the outlook for next week to 10 days. We've kind of lost the storyline a little bit over the last couple of days by not being able to update. But before I get on with all of that, just say about the ads. There's links to articles on all of the pages. Have a browse widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. Thanks very much for doing that. There's video ads on most of the pages. Say open up your content, you can watch them, they'll close back up again. It all helps to pay for gabsweatherleads.com. So just very quickly going to start off with what's happening in the Ector Pacific. We know we've got El Nino still there. It's fading away now. I think it'll be more or less done with us over the next month or so. But it's still there on the surface. But at depth, we're beginning to see signs of cooling down. So let's just have a quick look at this chart. This is underneath the surface of the Equatorial Pacific Ocean over the past few weeks. So we can start on this slide up here, which takes us back to the 2nd of February, and we see that we've got quite warm temperatures at depth at that point. The cold temperatures are pushed fairly well away from the Equatorial Pacific. So on the surface and at depth at the beginning of February, it was still pretty warm, reflective of that El Nino. But just look how that red area has been shrinking over the past few weeks. So this is the 17th of February, showing a shrinkage of that red area. We go through to the next week, which is the 4th of March. I think these move 2 weekly. So then the red area is clearly shrinking away. In fact, there's no red. It's going towards orange. This blue area just here, these are the colder than average temperatures at depth. Remember, this isn't on the surface yet. This is at depth. But the colder temperatures are beginning to expand. The latest is from the 19th of March. And again, we see a further weakening and shrinking of that El Nino signature of the warm waters, or warm and average temperature anomalies, with the cold temperature anomalies, cold and average temperature anomalies there continuing to expand out. Now, as I say, this isn't being reflected at the surface level of the Equatorial Pacific Ocean. And we'll actually have a look at the surface level anomaly chart in a moment. Just to say, this is the ENSO PDF that is updated every week by CPC, NCEP, and NOAA. These are all United States agencies. There's so much information that you get with this. You can just keep scrolling up here, and the actual title is ENSO Recent Evolution, Current Status and Predictions. The link to it is on the links page. There's something like 20 or 30 pages, just loads and loads of information that you get with this PDF. So do check it out. You can find a link to it on the links page. So as I say, these cold temperatures that we've got at depth not yet being reflected on the surface. This is the latest, or this was the latest from NOAA in terms of the sea surface temperature anomalies across the world. And you see that we've still got that signature for El Nino there through the Ector Pacific, albeit a very rapidly weakening one now. But with so much cold water at depth, I think it's probably only a matter of time before we start seeing blue appearing along the equator of the Pacific Ocean. When those blue colours appear, that could be the first indication that we're starting to shift towards a cold event, towards La Nina. Excuse me. Right, let's just have a look at where it's 8 to 10 days then, and we've got the 500 millibar point anomaly flow charts here. We've got the East Atlantic Earth here on the top, the GFS is on the bottom, 500 millibars, 8,000 feet area in the atmosphere, where high pressure, low pressure being moved out by a jet stream running above. They're both going for an unsettled week to 10 days. This takes us up to around the 10th of April, so we've got a deep trough of low pressure there. Around the UK, indicated by those blue curves, with jet streams going south as well, slowly tracking jet, doing something like that. So that's an unsettled and really quite cool ridge is out in the central part of the Atlantic with those red curves. So that's unsettled and cool weather in around a week to 10 days time. The GFS is very similar the GFS is doing, it's actually getting a bit of northern blocking going there at the top of the pole. It's creating a cut-off low down to the south and a ridge again out to west. So once again, the jet stream's doing something like that. We're still within a trough, really. Just the centre of the trough is more or less to the south of the country, but it's still pretty cool and pretty unsettled. If we have a look at the GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles the next couple of weeks, the red line here is the 30-year temperature average, so we're going to be above average. For the rest of this week and into the weekend, we're going to have a fairly nice period. There will be showers and long spells of rain coming over the weekend, particularly, I think, for England and Wales on Sunday. Scotland and Northern Ireland will never really settle down over the weekend, but overall, it's not going to be too bad at weekend. But increasingly, as we go through next week, those temperatures are dropping. And also got quite a lot of rainfall spikes appearing as well for next week. So increasingly unsettled, I think, is the signal for next week, with temperatures cooling down as well. The temperature anomaly looking like this, so around average, maybe a little bit above average. Remember, starting off fairly mild, and then we have a cooler spell setting up next week. Rainfall anomaly a little bit above average, generally. So this is the GFS for Monday. Low pressure already starting to break through. As we go through the week, things just deteriorate. So this low pressure sitting over the country as we go through into Tuesday. That's going to bring showers, longer spells of rain. Keep it unsettled into the second half next week. And the low pressure is actually deepening and intensifying as this ridge is pulling up to the north and the west. So this looks really quite unsettled through the second half of next week, and increasingly cool as well, with the winds going into the east and into the northeast. We end up on day 10. This is day 10, Saturday the 10th of April. Looking really quite cool and unsettled, actually. There's a big ridge there up to the north and west of the country. The trough is down to the south. The jet stream going a bit like that, and we're entrenching pretty cool air into that trough of low pressure. Not necessarily thinking that it's going to be wintry with that, but I think there could be a lot of rain and pretty dismal temperatures if that's right. ECWF, very similar as we saw on the high anomaly charts. They're both more or less in agreement, so low pressure is developing early next week, probably just bringing showery bursts of rain through the first half of next week. As we go into the second half, we find increasingly weather systems moving in from the north and west, bringing bouts of rain and increasingly cool temperatures as well. That's how we end up on day 10, so the 10th of April. Low pressure well and truly in situ there over the top of the country. A ridge is out to the west. Again, the jet stream's doing something like that, so it really does look quite cool and very unsettled, that, with showers and longer spells of rain. So we're going to get a warmer spell and a drier spell. Well, for the south, a drier spell, never really going to turn drier for the north. But we're going to get a warmer spell, a little bit drier in the south over the next 2 or 3 days. It will last the rest of this week and into the weekend. Next week, the message, I think, really is turning increasingly unsettled and cool as we run through next week and into that second weekend of April. So make the most of the next 2 or 3 days, really, I think, is the message. Increasingly unsettled next week. It's JMA Friday tomorrow, when we're doing the month-ahead look-ahead with Japanese CFS B2 models as well. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.